Dear Libra, let me ask you something, and don't answer out loud yet. When was the last time you felt the weight tip against you, not suddenly, but slowly, after years of being fair, patient, understanding even when it cost you? Because if you're here right now, this isn't background noise. This moment didn't drift into your life by accident. Something is shifting all at once, not because you pushed harder, but because you've been holding the balance for too long. This isn't a warning, and it's not a promise whispered to everyone. It's personal. A quiet reckoning. 3 movements lining up behind the scenes. One touching your heart. One touching your worth. One changing how you decide forever. If you've been waiting for the moment when the scale finally tilts back toward you, stay. And before we go any further, type Libra in the comments. Not for me. For yourself. Because what opens next only makes sense if you're ready to stop standing in the middle dot and step into what's actually yours. Alright, stay with me, Libra. Just you and me here. Take a breath first. Not the kind you force. The kind that arrives when you finally stop bracing. Sunday the 28th doesn't feel loud when it comes. It doesn't knock. It settles in quietly, like weight shifting on a scale you've been holding steady for far too long. And I know you feel it already. That subtle unease in your chest. Not fear. More like recognition, because you've spent years being the one who adjusts. You soften your tone. You see both sides. You hold space so others don't fall apart. You learned early how to keep things balanced, even when the cost was you. So when this day arrives, it isn't asking you to do more. It isn't asking you to be better. It's asking you to stop compensating. Something ancient moves here. Not chaotic, precise. Like a mechanism finally snapping back into alignment after being pulled off center for too long. You may notice it in small ways at first. A thought that lands differently. A conversation that doesn't drain you the way it used to. A quiet certainty rising where doubt once lived. This is the moment the universe stops borrowing from your patience. You didn't lose anything by waiting. You were calibrating. And now the balance shifts, all at once, not as punishment, as correction, because Libra, fairness doesn't forget. It keeps records in places you don't see. In the pauses you chose instead of conflict. In the compromises you made to keep the peace. In the truth you swallowed so others could feel comfortable. Those moments didn't disappear. They accumulated. And Sunday the 28th is when the scale finally acknowledges that weight. You might feel emotional without knowing why, or strangely calm in situations that used to twist you up. That's not you detaching, that's you returning to yourself. You're not standing in the middle anymore. You're being placed, and there's relief in that, even if it feels unfamiliar. Because when you're no longer holding both sides, your hands are finally free. Free to receive, free to decide, free to stop explaining your worth. Nothing about this is rushed. But it is undeniable. You may catch yourself thinking, I'm done negotiating with myself. And that thought will feel solid. Not dramatic. Just true. Let that land. This shift isn't meant to impress anyone watching from the outside. It's meant to steady you from the inside out. And once that steadiness takes hold, something else begins to move. Quietly. Deliberately. It starts beneath the surface. In how you sense value. In how you respond to opportunity. In how clearly you see what no longer belongs in your energy. That's where we're going next. Not into chaos, into clarity. So stay here with me. Don't rush ahead. Let this moment finish adjusting the scale. Because once the balance resets, what follows doesn't ask for permission. Stay with me, Libra. Don't rush this part. I want you to notice something first. The way your body listens before your mind does. That subtle pause inside you when a truth gets close. Everything shifting at once doesn't mean chaos for you. It never has. For you, it feels more like a long exhale, finally reaching the bottom of your lungs. You were born to feel balance, not as an idea, as a living, breathing necessity. Fairness is not a preference for you. It's a language your soul speaks fluently. And for most of your life, you've been translating it for everyone else. You learned how to read the room before you learned how to read yourself. You sensed where things were uneven and quietly adjusted. Lowered your needs. softened your truth, gave a little more so others wouldn't have to feel the weight. And you did it without applause, without keeping score, without asking when it would come back to you. That's the part no one talks about. Energy doesn't disappear. It remembers. Every time you chose peace over being right. Every time you held space while your own heart waited. Every time you stayed silent so the moment wouldn't break. Those moments stacked quietly, layer by layer, invisible but not forgotten. Sunday the 28th isn't dramatic because it doesn't need to be. It's precise. This is the moment when the universe stops letting imbalance slide. Not to punish, to restore. Things that have been suspended in midair can't float anymore. Decisions, truths, situations that survived only because you kept compensating for them. You may feel it as a sudden clarity, or a calm refusal to explain yourself, or the strange certainty that you no longer need to negotiate your worth. That's not you becoming colder. That's you becoming exact. When everything shifts at once, it's because the scale has reached its limit. Not emotionally, energetically. What was delayed now demands resolution. What was vague begins to show its edges. What once felt confusing becomes obvious without effort. And the most important part, you're no longer positioned in the middle. You're being returned to yourself. This is what realignment feels like for you. Not a push forward, a placement. You don't have to chase justice. Justice knows where you are. And as this settles, something inside you begins to relax. The constant calculating, the quiet self-editing, the inner question of, am I asking for too much? You realize you were never asking too much. You were asking the wrong place. That realization carries power. Not loud power, grounded power. The kind that changes how you respond without changing who you are. And once that shift locks in, the world responds differently. Opportunities feel cleaner. Conversations feel shorter but truer. Your yes becomes meaningful again, because your no finally holds weight. You didn't lose time by waiting. You were allowing the balance to reveal itself. Now it does. And as this correction completes its first movement, something else begins to stir beneath the surface. Not about fairness. About value. What you receive. What you accept. What finally meets you without resistance. Let's keep going. There's more unfolding than meets the eye. Stay close with me, Libra. Just you. No one else in this moment. There is a reason your chest feels quieter right now. Not empty. Quieter. The first real shift never announces itself outside of you. It begins somewhere deeper. In the place where you learned to stay composed when your feelings wanted to spill. In the place where you trained yourself to be understanding before you were ever understood. You carried that weight gently. So gently that no one noticed how heavy it was. You became the calm one, the fair one, the one who could see every angle and still choose peace. And over time, that became a habit. You absorbed emotions that were not yours. You softened your truth so others would not feel exposed. You stayed longer than your spirit wanted to, because leaving felt like harm. That is not weakness. That is devotion. But devotion without release tightens the nervous system. It teaches the body to stay alert even when nothing is wrong. It teaches the heart to wait for permission to rest. Sunday the 28th changes that pattern. Not with a dramatic ending. With a quiet permission. You may notice it in how your shoulders drop, without you telling them to. In how a memory passes through without gripping your throat. In how a familiar trigger no longer pulls the same reaction from you. This is not closure. Closure asks questions. This is peace. Peace does not need answers. You forgive without reopening the door. You release without rewriting the past. You let go without explaining yourself to anyone. And the most important thing, you stop holding emotional balance for people who never learned how to carry their own. Your body recognizes this before your mind does. The breath deepens. The jaw unclenches. The constant background tension fades into something softer. That is your nervous system learning a new truth. You are not responsible for keeping everything steady anymore. There is relief here, but also something else. A strange sense of space. When you are no longer managing everyone else's emotions, you begin to feel your own again. Not all at once, in gentle waves, sadness that does not overwhelm, joy that does not feel risky, anger that shows you where your boundaries live. You are not becoming harder. You are becoming clearer. This emotional reset does not erase your compassion. It refines it. You can still care deeply without carrying what is not yours. You can still love without losing yourself in the process. And as this settles in, you may feel a quiet strength returning. Not the kind that braces. The kind that trusts. Trusts that you do not need to explain why you feel lighter. Trusts that you do not need permission to rest. Trusts that your peace does not require validation. This is the moment you stop negotiating with your own feelings. You listen. You honor. You allow. And once your inner world stabilizes like this, something remarkable begins to happen. The outside world responds. Not because you demand it. Because your energy is no longer leaking. What comes next builds on this calm. It grows from the space you just created. From the quiet strength of a heart that has finally been allowed to settle. Stay with me. We are moving from release into something tangible now. Stay with me, Libra. Let this part unfold slowly. Now that your inner world has softened, something else begins to respond. Not emotionally this time, practically, tangibly. You may have noticed how money has always carried a quiet tension for you. Not because you don't understand value, but because you feel it so deeply. You've lived with that question humming beneath the surface. Am I truly worthy of receiving this? Or am I asking for too much? You learned early to downplay your needs, to smooth things over, to accept less if it meant keeping the peace. So even when opportunities came close, you hesitated. Even when recognition was due, you second-guessed it. You didn't want to tip the scale too far in your favor. But here's the truth you were never taught. Balance does not mean self-denial. Fairness does not require you to stay small. As this shift settles in, the way you relate to value begins to change. Not abruptly, naturally. You stop apologizing for wanting stability. You stop questioning whether ease is allowed. You begin to see money not as proof of worth, but as a reflection of alignment. And because your energy is no longer leaking through guilt, things start to move. It may arrive quietly, a message you weren't expecting, an offer that feels clean instead of draining, a repayment you had already released emotionally. Or maybe it's something subtler, a door you assumed was closed opening without resistance. A conversation that finally acknowledges your contribution. A situation shifting just enough for you to breathe easier. This isn't luck. Luck is random. This is recalibration. For so long you gave more than you received without keeping track. You trusted that fairness would catch up eventually. And it does. Not loudly. Accurately. You begin to receive without tightening your chest. Without rushing to justify it. Without shrinking afterward. That is new. And it matters. Because the moment you accept value without guilt, you send a clear signal. I am ready to be met. You're not taking from anyone. You're allowing what matches you to finally reach you. This realignment doesn't make you harder. It makes you steadier. You become selective, not guarded. Open, but discerning. You recognize which opportunities honor your time and which only borrow from it. And that clarity changes the flow entirely. Money becomes calmer. Decisions become cleaner. You stop overthinking what you deserve. You don't chase. You choose. There's a quiet dignity in that. A grounded confidence that doesn't need to announce itself. You may even notice something surprising. When you stop undervaluing yourself, others adjust without being asked. They meet you where you stand now. This is what balance looks like when it's real, not equal effort, equal respect. And as this sense of worth anchors into your life, another layer begins to surface. One that goes beyond material things. Because once you know what you are worth, you also know what no longer fits. That awareness is already forming. Like light creeping into a room at dawn. Soft. Unavoidable. Stay here with me. We're about to see something with new eyes. Stay with me, Libra. This is where the air gets clearer. There's a moment that arrives after balance is restored and value is reclaimed. It doesn't feel loud. It feels sharp, like a window opening in a room you didn't realize had been dim for years. This is the third shift. And it doesn't ask for effort. It brings understanding. You begin to see your life without the blur of obligation, without the habit of explaining yourself before you even speak, without the need to keep every door cracked open just in case. Something inside you settles into certainty, not the kind that argues, the kind that knows. You start noticing who energizes you and who quietly drains you, not with resentment, with honesty. You realize how many times you stayed out of loyalty when your spirit was already gone. How often you compromised, not because you believed in it, but because you didn't want to disrupt the peace. How many roles you kept playing long after the story had moved on. This clarity doesn't come with blame, it comes with relief. You're no longer confused about why certain conversations feel heavy, or why some connections require you to shrink just a little to fit. You see it now, and seeing it changes everything. You don't argue with yourself anymore. You don't weigh every decision until it loses meaning. You trust the first quiet answer that rises in your chest. That answer has been there all along. It was just drowned out by noise. Now it speaks plainly. Some people were meant to walk with you for a season. Some paths were meant to teach, not last. And some compromises were never meant to become permanent. This realization doesn't harden you. It frees you. You feel it when you say no and don't feel guilty afterward. When you choose distance and it feels like self-respect instead of loss. When you stop waiting for others to change before you allow yourself to move forward. There is a calm decisiveness in you now, not rushed, not reactive. Final, you understand that clarity is an act of kindness to yourself and to everyone else, because staying where you no longer belong only delays what is meant to unfold next. For you, and for them, you're not burning bridges. You're closing chapters with grace. And the most powerful part, you're no longer asking for permission to trust what you see. This is where Libra steps out of indecision and into alignment. Not choosing sides, choosing truth. You feel lighter because your energy is no longer split. Your attention returns to you. Your life regains coherence. You don't need to announce this shift. People will feel it in how you respond, in how you no longer over-explain, in how your presence becomes grounded instead of accommodating. This clarity reshapes your future quietly. It informs every yes, every no, every step that follows. And as this understanding settles into your bones, another movement begins to form. One that weaves together everything you've just reclaimed. Your sense of worth, your sense of peace, your sense of direction. It doesn't rush in. It waits until you're steady. Because what comes next is not about release, or receiving, or choosing. It's about integration. Stay with me. We're approaching the moment where all of this becomes whole. Stay with me, Libra. This is where the story deepens. After clarity settles, after the noise thins out, something ancient steps forward. Not to explain itself, to be felt. You may sense it like a warmth returning to the center of your chest. A quiet remembering. As if a part of you that went dormant while you were surviving is slowly waking up again. This is where the deeper symbols move in. Not as predictions, as reflections. You are no longer asking who you need to become. You are meeting who you already are. There is a softness entering your life now, not weakness. Nourishment. You begin to care for yourself the way you once reserved only for others. With patience, with presence, with tenderness that does not rush healing. You stop postponing your own needs. You allow rest without justification. You give yourself permission to grow without proving why. That is the first energy anchoring into you. The return of self-trust, the quiet power of choosing yourself daily without drama. And as that settles, something else steadies you. Your values are no longer theoretical. They are lived. They have been tested by time, loss, compromise, and restraint. You know what matters now because you have felt what does not. Your decisions carry weight because they come from experience, not impulse. You are no longer swayed by approval or pressure. You move with integrity that does not need witnesses. There is a groundedness in you that feels earned, a sense that your life is aligning not around expectations, but around truth. You don't seek permission anymore. You act from alignment. This is the moment when your inner compass stops spinning. It points clearly, and you trust it. Then something closes, not abruptly, completely. A chapter you have been circling for years reaches its natural end. Not with grief, with understanding. You see the full arc now. The purpose of the waiting. The reason certain patterns kept repeating until the lesson was absorbed. You don't resent the past. You honor it for shaping you. There is a deep sense of completion here. Like finishing a long journey and realizing you arrived exactly where you needed to be. You are no longer defined by what you endured. You are defined by what you integrated. And in that integration, you step into a new position. You are not waiting to be chosen. You are choosing. You choose your pace, your standards, your direction, and when you do, the world responds. Not by resisting, by adjusting. Opportunities align differently. People meet you with more respect. Life begins to mirror the clarity you now carry. This is not control. It is coherence. You are in rhythm with yourself again. And when that rhythm stabilizes, something remarkable happens. Everything you have released, reclaimed, and realized begins to work together. Your compassion no longer costs you your peace. Your boundaries no longer feel like walls. Your growth feels natural instead of forced. You are whole in a way that does not need to be explained. And from that wholeness, the next movement forms quietly. Not asking you to change. Inviting you to live from this new center. Stay here with me. What unfolds next is built on everything you've just become. Stay here with me, Libra. Right in this quiet space. Now that everything has aligned inside you, the question is no longer what is changing. It is how you let it stay. You do not need to rush forward. You do not need to announce anything. The energy you are stepping into is not sustained by effort. It is sustained by respect. For the first time in a long while, life is not asking you to give more. It is asking you to receive differently. To hold what arrives without shrinking around it. To let stability feel natural instead of suspicious. To trust that what is meant for you does not require an apology. This is how Libra keeps what has shifted. Not by tightening control, but by softening into certainty. You will notice it in small moments. The pause before you respond. The calm in your no. The way you stop over explaining choices that already feel right in your body. There is strength in that restraint. A quiet authority that does not need permission. You are learning something important now. Saying enough is not rejection. It is clarity. When something drains you, you no longer negotiate with yourself. You step back without guilt. You allow distance to be an act of care. And when something nourishes you, you let it in fully. Without questioning whether you deserve it. Without rushing to balance the scales by giving more than is asked. This is not selfishness. This is equilibrium. Giving selectively does not make you colder. It makes your warmth meaningful again. Sunday the 28th was never meant to push you into action. It was meant to give you a foundation. A place inside yourself where you can stand without swaying. You begin to move differently from here, slower, more deliberate, not because you are behind, because you are rooted. What comes to you now does not shout, it arrives quietly, and it stays. You may feel tempted to hurry things along, to prove that the shift is real. But there is no need. The most lasting changes do not announce themselves. They integrate. You hold this new balance by honoring your pace, by listening when your body asks for rest, by choosing simplicity over spectacle. There is dignity in that. You start to notice how much easier it is to breathe, how your decisions require less mental effort, how peace no longer feels fragile. That is how you know it is real. And as you live from this steadier place, something else begins to take shape, not something new, something familiar. A sense of purpose that feels less like striving and more like recognition. A knowing that the life you are building now reflects who you have become. You are no longer reacting to imbalance. You are living from alignment. Let this settle. Let it become ordinary. Let it become yours. Because when stability stops feeling temporary, the final layer reveals itself. The moment where you realize this was never about holding things together. It was about becoming whole. Stay with me. We are almost there. Stay with me, Libra. Just a little longer. There comes a moment when the need to adjust fades away. Not because the world suddenly became fair, but because you no longer bend yourself to make it feel that way. This is that moment. You can feel it in how you stand now. Not braced, not leaning, centered. For so long, you were the one holding the balance for everyone else. Reading the emotional weather. Shifting your weight so others could stay comfortable. You called it harmony. But deep down, it cost you more than you ever admitted. Now something fundamental has changed. You are no longer the keeper of the scale. You are the axis. And when that happens, the noise around you quiets. The urgency dissolves. The constant inner calculation stops running. The 3 shifts you've moved through were never meant to overwhelm you. They weren't designed to shake your life apart. They came to return something that quietly slipped away while you were being strong. Your value. Your peace. Your right to live in alignment with who you truly are. You didn't earn these by suffering harder. You didn't unlock them by proving anything. They arrived because you were finally ready to stop standing in between. Between what you feel and what you show. Between what you want and what you allow. Between who you are and who you thought you had to be. Sunday the 28th marks that crossing. Not loudly, but unmistakably. It feels like stepping through a doorway that was always there, waiting for the scale to settle. No rush, no pressure. Just a quiet knowing that the timing is right. You are not waiting to be chosen anymore. You are choosing. Choosing rest without guilt. Choosing truth without softening it. Choosing yourself without needing consensus. And something beautiful happens when you do that. Life meets you with more respect. You notice it in how people respond, in how opportunities align without struggle, in how your days feel less heavy, even when they are full. This is not the end of a story. It is the moment the story finally belongs to you. You don't need to explain this shift to anyone. You don't need to defend it. Those who are meant to walk with you will feel the steadiness in your presence. And those who were only meant to meet you at a certain point will gently fall away. Not as loss, as completion. There is dignity in that. There is peace in letting things end when they are whole. So take a breath here. Let the stillness settle. If something inside you recognizes itself in these words, honor that. You don't have to do anything dramatic, just acknowledge it. You can type labor in the comments if it feels right. Not to declare anything, but to mark the moment you stopped standing in the middle. And if you want to stay connected to this unfolding, stay with me. There is more light ahead, more depth, more clarity waiting to meet you. For now, know this: you didn't lose yourself along the way, you were refining. And now, with the balance restored, you step forward not as the one who holds everything together, but as the one who finally stands where they belong. Stay here with me for a moment, Libra. Let this land. If you've listened all the way to this point, it's because something inside you already knows the truth. Not the loud kind. The quiet kind that settles into your chest and says, yes, this is me. What you're stepping into now isn't a sudden miracle that flashes and disappears. It's a steady return to balance, to worth, to the version of you that no longer needs to stand in the middle and hold everything together. You didn't miss your moment. You were becoming strong enough to live it. And this is only the beginning. What unfolds next will continue to build on this clarity, this calm, this grounded confidence you're reclaiming. There is more guidance coming, more understanding, more alignment waiting to meet you exactly where you are. So if this message touched something real in you, don't let it pass quietly. Type Libra in the comments as a way of saying, I see myself. I trust this shift. If this brought you even a moment of peace, give the video a like, so this energy can reach others who need it too. And if you want to stay connected to what's unfolding next, make sure you subscribe. The journey doesn't end here. The next message is already forming. Above all, remember this: you don't have to rush, you don't have to prove anything, and you don't have to ask for permission to live in alignment with who you truly are. Trust yourself, Libra. The balance has been restored. And from here on, you move forward not as the one who holds the scale, but as the one who finally stands where they belong. Stay close. We'll continue this together.